Good morning. Oh, everyone's awake. That's a good thing. Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Rochester. Here, our mission is through spiritual connection and community. We listen deeply to others and ourselves. We open to wonder and transformation, and we serve with love and humility. We acknowledge with respect the Seneca people, keepers of the Western Door, part of the Haudenosaunee people on which our church now stands. I'm Shannon Foose. I use the pronouns she, her, Aja. And leading worship today, we have Reverend AJ. We have a couple of our lovely members and board members, Emily and John, who will be joining us up front in a little bit. And we have a couple of wonderful announcements. Next weekend is our homecoming weekend. We are going to have a special two-service Sunday, so one at 10, one at noon. It's also Bring a Friend weekend, so whoever's been asking you about church and what is Unitarian Universalism about, bring them on over. They're going to learn a lot, and we're going to have a lot of fun together. The following weekend, the 18th, we are going to be offering a special workshop on inclusivity for LGBTQ plus folks in our community. Please come to that. We'll have it right after service. We'll be offering a lunch, and then there'll be a second part after lunch. If you are here and you are having a hard time wanting to talk to someone, we have pastoral care folks both in person and online, so please feel free to reach out to them. Let us all now take a deep breath as we settle into this time and space. Please join me in reading our Chalice Lighting words. May the flame we now kindle inspire us to use our power to heal with love, to help with compassion, to bless with joy, and to seek liberation in the fullness of community.
Good morning, everyone. I am Reverend AJ. I use he, him, his pronouns, and welcome to our reverse questions box Sunday. So, some of you who were around last year may remember Reverend Sherry and I did a questions box service, and many and maybe other churches as well do this kind of service where congregants will submit questions to be asked and answered by the ministers sort of in lieu of the sermon. So this year we wanted to do a reverse of that and get a panel together of congregants to answer some questions from the ministers. Unfortunately, we've had a little bit of technical difficulty this morning, so half of our panelists who we pre-recorded, there's Colleen Hurst, and actually if we could, I would love to be able to show them if that's what we can do. We pre-recorded these interviews. Unfortunately, we're not getting audio working from our videos this morning, so we'll put together the videos and put them out on the internet so that folks can, so you can all see what they had to say. So we've got Colleen Hurst, who's a very long-time member, and then Ethan List as well. Hopefully he'll be up. We can show him in a second. There he is, one of our youth members. So unfortunately, we will have to carry on without them, but I'm going to invite up Emily Clasper and John Horn to start us off. So thanks for being willing and all of that. And just as forewarning, I may ask you all questions that we gave you ahead of time, but a little bit more than we had been planning this morning. So let's just start off with some introductions. Emily, if you'd introduce yourself first, and then John.
All right, I just have to get all set up here. And so I'm Emily Clasper. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I've been a member of this congregation for, 4 years now. And I'm on the board of trustees now.
Wonderful. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, everybody. John Horn. And my wife and I have been members since, she'll have to correct me, 2017 or 2018 or so. And my tape is, I'm looking bad, but that's not
I'm
unusual.
gonna come help.
Thank you.
Here you go. Isn't
Thank
that
you.
why we come to church?
Exactly. So,
Excellent. Well, and in fact, that is the first question to kick us off. We'll go again, Emily, and then John. Why do you come to church?
I can take
Yeah,
it first.
please.
We ask this question at the beginning of every service, don't we? For me, it really boils down to community. When my husband Chris, over here, who you all know, and I first kind of discovered we were living on Long Island, and it was like a rough part of our lives because we had a 3-year-old Robert, who many of you know, and a little baby infant Claire, who some of you know. And we were feeling a real lack of community support at that time. I had been hospitalized for severe postpartum depression. We had this little baby, this toddler. It was real rough for us. And we came to realize that we needed a community. Oh, did I hit it? Okay. We needed a community to support, and we wanted to be there to support other people too. We very much were missing that back and forth kind of thing. So we kind of went out looking, and we found the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Stony Brook, and we said, let's just go down and see. And we very much found that community very quickly. That was exactly what we needed. And some of the people that we moved here in 2018, and some of the people from that fellowship, they're still like family to us. And it just so happens, I'll add this in, it just so happens that first service that we went to, here we are with our little ones, right? Was the youth-led service that they did there, and it was incredible. It was, and we sat there, and afterwards we looked at each other and we said, that's how we want our kids to end up when they're that age. And now our kids are that age, and knock wood, it worked. So this is something that we still come for. That's why we started coming for it. That's for me. Why I still come is because I need that community, and I love trying to give back to it as well.
So I've always been quite fortunate in many sense, but for one, my wife recommended that we come here. And I don't know why she suggested it, but it's like with most things, it was lots of wisdom embedded in that. Because we came here, and especially through these very turbulent times, and you're aware of that, this has been like a lifeboat, probably for all of us. It's not just enough to be in a lifeboat, but it's really important to be in a lifeboat when there's others that share similar values as you do. And you're going through the up and downs of the waves and the tumult that's around us. So for me, I think, I really can't speak for my wife, but for me, maybe for her, maybe for all of us, it's so important to be around people that you can rely upon and depend upon. And although we look different, we come from different places, I think our values are quite similar. And that's very important, especially now. So.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for getting us started off. We'll sort of have questions in this panel scattered throughout the service with all the worship elements. And so with that, one of the other reasons we come to church, of course, is to sing together. So Katya, would you come up and lead us?
Good morning. It is so great being here with you this morning. Please rise in mind, body, or spirit. And we are singing, Where Do We Come From? Where do we come from? Why
in a moment we'll transition into the contemplative, pastoral prayer, ritual part of our service. As many of you who have been here know, you are invited in this time to light a candle for grief or gratitude or growth that you are holding in your heart. That's sort of how we frame it. But really, as it may be characteristic of Unitarian Universalists, the instructions are there, and then what people do may be its own thing. So before we get into that, I want to turn back to our panel and ask, when you participate in the candle lighting ritual or online, you're invited, folks are invited to type things into the chat to share. What are the kinds of things that come to mind for you that you're holding or how you're participating in that service? Why don't, John, you go first since Emily started us off last time.
I'm very much interested and oriented toward history type things. And when discussed and mentioned about the history behind the candlelight service, I think of those in the past who gather like we do for community. Maybe they gather because they're hiding from oppression. And we're not hiding, but we do find strength and unity in numbers. So for me, I sometimes, not always, but tend to gravitate to those in the past, those in Europe, those that were running away from danger.
For me, whenever this part comes up, I feel like I've always got like so much going on, right? Like all these things on my mind and all these things that are happening in my life. And for me, this moment in the service is about taking a step back and saying, well, what's the thing though that's most on my mind right now? And what really rises to the top? Whether that is a happy thing that's happening or something I'm really, joyful about, something that I'm worried about, something that's giving me stress, or whatever it happens to be. Like what in all of this muddle that's going on in my brain all week, what's the number one thing that I have on my mind? And it gives me a second to kind of focus just on that one thing and recognize it as being, in all of this stuff. There are some things that are more important than others. And I can have a minute to just recognize that.
Thank you both. And so with that, to ground us in our hearts and our minds, let us now enter into ritual to bring what is heaviest on our hearts or most present in our mind this morning and to lay it on the altar of community and spirit, honoring the complexities of life, the grief, the gratitude, the growth, whatever it is that comes up top of mind, alive in each of us. Online, you're invited to share in the chat, and in the sanctuary, you're invited to arrive at one of the aisle altars to light a candle for your grief, gratitude, or growth, extinguishing the taper candle with the snuffer. May we now share in this ritual of community care. I invite you now to hold this silence for a few moments more, holding all that we have shared and those unspoken in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. With all that we hold in our hearts and all that we have lit candles for and expressed to one another, for ourselves, for each other, and for the world, please join me now in the spirit of meditation, reflection, and prayer. Great mystery which grounds us and surrounds us, divine presence known by many names and in many ways. Be with us in our questions and our questioning this hour and each hour. May we never mistake ourselves for already knowing everything there is to know. May we never shy away from the questions which may scare us, the true answers to which may ask more from us than we have realized. May we nurture the questioning alive in others, welcoming their curiosity, ranging from the "how are you?" even all the way to "how dare you?" Spirit of life, be with those of us and those around the world who are suffering, struggling against oppression and isolation, exploitation, with those who are striving to find balance amongst the chaos. May each budget passed and spent be aligned with our most deeply held values, reflecting the ethics and morals of an inclusive and flourishing society. May water be clean and available to all, and may the floods of climate change be held at bay and climate reparations paid as equity and justice demand. May health and care be provided for every human body. May each body have autonomy and control of its own destiny. May the pandemics and viruses of our time be held at bay by the combination of science and sound public policy. May all citizens of the world be freed from wars and conquest and colonization. May all workers be compensated fairly and not exploited. May justice reign in every land, and may it start in each and every hand and foot and heartbeat. May it begin within ourselves. And for all those things that we hold close in ritual and prayer this morning, those blessings for which we are grateful, the grief that we cannot hold all on our own, and the growth that we seek and celebrate as people of progressive faith. May all this and more that we hold in our hearts be held lovingly by this community and by the larger love that holds us all, always. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. Thank you so much to Ira, Marissa, and Cindy, the Satori trio, for gracing us with beautiful music this morning. So, Emily and John, back to our next questions. Where do you, or no, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. What is something that you have learned over the course of your life? Big, broad question, but you can share just one thing, something you've learned. Oh. Nope. John, do we have audio on you? Oh. No?
Wait, now you can hear me, right?
There we go. Yes.
Oh, there we go. So that is like the worst possible question that you could ask me because I learn something new every day. I feel like that's an important part of my character. I'm a librarian. Like, I'm all about lifelong learning, you know? But I think I'm also I'm an accidental learner, but I'm also very much an intentional learner. And when is something that I really know that I need to learn, I will like go after it and really try. And the two things in the last maybe like 10 years or so that I've really tried are patience and empathy. Because those are things that don't come naturally to me, but that doesn't mean I can't do it. So I have actually tried to be a very intentional learner around those, I don't know, what are those, like character traits or skills or whatever they are. Patience and empathy, especially when it comes to relating to other people, are things that I've tried very hard to intentionally work on.
So I'm going to steal something from you, and I'm a work in progress, no surprise to those who know me. And I, too, need to work on patience and empathy and kindness and all the other traits that many, some, a few have, but most of us could work in that area. I'm also pretty fortunate in that I'm out at RIT, and I'm interacting with freshmen out there, and I'm always amazed at the potential of younger generations and the change that they positively will affect to make things better for all of us and themselves. So those things, I'm a work in progress, and the potential that lies with our youth, young adults, and all of us, I guess.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing with us. I'm going to invite Shannon up now for our offering.
Each week, members and friends generously contribute to our offering, which helps sustain our community and communities in Rochester. This collection supports the work and witness of our church, and each week we give half of this collection to a partner organization helping those in need and working to create a more just and loving world. This week, we are sharing our plate collection with Yoga for a Good Hood. This Rochester community organization creates accessible spaces of healing for people of color and individuals with low socioeconomic status through yoga and more, giving people tools to find peace within. You can give online at rochesterunitarian.org/donate or in our baskets. Our offering will now be received with gratitude.
Well, now we're going to get into some of the deeper and trickier questions. So those ones were all easy already, right? Where do you encounter the sacred or the divine, or however you might define that, right? Unitarian Universalists have a number of words and ways we talk about that. But where do you encounter sacredness in your life? And sort of combining these two questions that we asked you separately before, how do you cultivate that or try to maybe encounter it more often?
I can go. For me, excuse me, I encounter this sacred at the most unexpected moments. It's never when I think I'm going to encounter something that really gets to that place. And it usually is part of just my everyday experiences. That said, in order to cultivate that, so I'm a pretty purpose-driven person, in case you couldn't tell. Like if there's a goal, I'm looking right there, and we're going to get to that goal. And so for me to cultivate and to open myself up to those unexpected moments where something is really special there, I need to be more intentional about looking here and here and open myself up to that. So that's kind of a self-awareness thing, but it's something that being a UU has really helped me with, because you talk about all the mindfulness and looking outside of this place. It helps me open up to those unique, unexpected moments and those everyday things that happen that are just amazing. And not amazing because they're big and splashy, but amazing because there's something special and sacred about it.
What a heavy question. So I think for me, it's three things come to mind. The first is when you're on a beach looking out of the ocean, or you're on the edge of the Grand Canyon, a huge valley in the desert. When my wife and I were in the Swiss Alps, then you tend to feel smaller, and things are in the appropriate perspective. The second might be where you're on the cusp of life and death. Somebody that you care about is sliding away, or maybe you yourself are very, very sick. And then the third might be when there's the generosity of somebody, maybe likely unexpected, the simple generosity. It doesn't have to be grandiose. That is obviously quite special. So those are and there are probably many that might come to mind, but the sacred is so unique, it doesn't happen all the time either, for me. So.
Thanks. Yeah, it's beautiful, because I love that with both of your answers together, there's sort of both the sacredness that happens in those big Grand Canyon moments, or big Grand Canyon relationship moments, and also Emily talking about the sacred in the mundane, the daily, the going through your usual life, but being open to that awareness. I think that's unsurprisingly characteristically you, right, to have that breadth of ways that the sacred is found and engaged with. Well, we of course have to ask this question in some ways. Maybe don't have to, but we wanted to. What do you think happens when we die?
Oh, you want me to go? Okay. Okay, so to be really honest, I think not much. I think we're just done. I mean, which is kind of a hard thing to think about, because I don't know if this is everybody, but I think with a lot of people, I'm the main character in the story of the world here, because everything in the world that I understand comes through the lens of my experience. So it's real hard to think about the world without me in it because I've always been in it, right? But I also think that who we are is very bound up with physiology and chemistry. I mean, you see that in how psychiatric drugs work and how traumatic brain injuries, like in those cases, you see people say, wow, they really became a different person. And I kind of believe that. So without that physiology and that special chemistry and blend, I'm kind of like, what do we have left? You know, like, is that even if you take an elemental like spirit out of that, is that really me anymore? Probably not. So yeah, it's a very big, huge thing. Thanks for asking it, EJ. But to me, I'm kind of like, I think about like, well, what was I like before I was born? And I'm like, nothing. I don't know. And I kind of think it may be the same way on the other end of the journey.
So next time you want to ask that question, don't.
Yes.
So,
Don't ask that question.
so I don't know, we don't know. And that's inherently part of the problem. I suppose I do have a problem with those who do damage now and think there's salvation on the other side, so that's okay. So part of who we are, I think, as our values is to do as much good as we can, and that, of course, is all relative, and still hope that on the other side we can still be with those that have had a positive impact on our life. We don't know, so I suppose let's hold out for that possibility. But in the meantime, let's do as much good as we can now for each other and our immediate communities and those that are beyond our immediate community, so that they too can have the potential of heaven on earth. Right? Let's not, yeah, so.
Yeah, a wonderful classic universalist answer, right?
Yeah.
That salvation, well, some classical universalists would say salvation is already taken care of, everyone is saved, so therefore we're going to focus on this life. And then also the question of, we don't know, and so while we may hope for the best or hope for, that there being something there, what really matters is building heaven on earth and creating salvation for ourselves and others in this life and in this world for everyone. And it's interesting, I should have prefaced that part of the reason we wanted to ask it is one of those sort of, you can find lists of like the big 5 theological questions of like how what a religion says or what a person's beliefs are, and being one of those mysteries that we don't really know, what happens after we die is one of those big questions. And as Unitarian Universalists, again, we say we have this diversity of belief, and we do in diversity of opinions, but like John was saying earlier, there's also a lot of shared values and shared approach to religion and these questions. And so it's not surprising that a lot of Unitarian Universalists will say something to that effect of like, well, I don't know, we don't really know, so I'm not going to worry about it. But then also, as you said, some beliefs impact people's behaviors in this life differently, depending on what they believe about that. So it's that balance, I think, of Unitarian Universalists that, I hear you on next time we ask a question, don't, and, there's fairness in that. And I also think it is an important question to consider and explore, even if we ultimately don't know the answer and ultimately are focused more on this life. There are still questions worth engaging. Anything else you'd like to add? Any questions that we didn't ask that you wish we had? Anything like that before we move on? No? May I ask what it was like to do this experience of answering these questions up? I mean, we gave you the questions ahead of time, but what was it like answering them in front of a crowd of so many people? I won't name a number. But.
oh, it's nerve-wracking. You know, I'm looking around and, you know, seeing all these people and thinking, oh, what are they thinking of that? But I think it's a worthwhile exercise for each of us to go through and think about those kinds of questions every now and then. And I think it is important to kind of share what we're thinking about that with each other, even if it's to get the realization that not everybody is thinking the same thing.
I think it stinks. And, answer the questions in front of this large group and live. I'm being a little bit facetious. I think Reverend AJ has a plan that each of you, every week, there's 3 or 4 of you that are going to come on stage, so that you have that opportunity to do the same thing. I think that's in their schedule. But it is interesting, potentially, to ask, to have that dialogue with somebody that you like or care about, or maybe a stranger, and to talk about, maybe it kind of forces you to think through your values somewhat. Yeah.
Well, now you all have your homework for coffee hour.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
There we go.
I was going to transition into that to suggest that people, ask these questions or other questions that come to mind of others in coffee hour, or as you were saying, and something else which escapes my mind. So, Katja, would you close us off in song?
All right, will you please join me in mind, body, or spirit in singing We Laugh, We Cry. We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we can belong. We need to feel the freedom just to have some time alone. But most of all, we need close friends we can call our very own. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found our need to be together. And we have our hearts to give, we have our thoughts to receive, and we believe that sharing is an answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we'll come together here to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found our joy being together. And in our search for peace, maybe we'll find all we seek. Even to question truly is an answer.
May you please remain standing or seated as you wish for our chalice extinguishing and blessing for the journey. Let us extinguish. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. May you go forth from this gathering answering questions and questioning answers, inviting one another to risk relationship and community, that we might build a world of compassion, justice, and flourishing for all. Go in peace. Blessed be.
I am Ethan List and him, and I am a member of youth group and a member of the church, and I've been going to youth group and RE for many years. Well, I've changed my mind about wanting to come to church because I didn't see the value in it when I was younger, but it took a while in me growing up a lot to be able to see how important it actually is. Well, I used to come because my parents made me, but then like these past few years, I've realized how important it actually is. A valuable takeaway I had from OWL was that everybody sees the world differently and interacts with the world differently, and like you can't hold everybody to the same standards. I don't really know, and I don't think anyone can really know exactly, but I doubt it's anything that bad, or I think, yeah, I I don't think anyone can really know, but I don't think it's anything negative or positive. I bet it's neutral or nothing. I take the meaning from that because we only have a limited time to have an effect on the world, we need to make use of our time, and there's not time to do negative things and things that would leave a negative effect on the world, because you don't know if those things, like what their effect will be and how long that'll last. So it's very important to do positive things for the world and leave an impact in a positive way. Try to see the silver lining in everything and try to not really look for a hidden meaning, but look for a better way to see it, a way to see it that it's not all bad.
My name is Colleen Hurst. Um, we have lived here in Rochester for the last 50 years and been in this church through all of those years, and a great many interesting things and things that are part of my life I find here in the church and have through the years. I think, as far as I know, nothing. I think we leave our bodies. I have no idea what happens after that. And frankly, I'm not worried about it. I think it's up to us to get the most out of life and give the most to life that we can while we're here and able. And so that's what I'm more concerned about. Next week, I'll be 96 years old, and I have learned a heck of a lot through those years. I guess just to take life as it comes most of the time, and enjoy what you find, because there are different things at different stages and places in your life. Because I want to make a connection with the people here. The main reason that Robin and I came in the first place is we found meaningfulness in the approach to religion that we found in the Unitarian Church. And it is different from any other. I've been in a lot of other churches at one time or another. And I have nothing bad to say about most of them, but for me and for us, this church not only brings a great deal in many ways, I think it brings out perhaps more different kind of possibilities in its members than most churches do. The possibilities are very deep, if you want to go deep. They are wide, very accepting, and I guess loaded with possibilities. This church now has been my church home for 50 years, all through different phases of my life, and offering contacts with so many different people and kinds of people that have formed, I have had close relationships with. I must say that I am at a time of life when almost every one of my close friends are not alive anymore. And so that's part of what the church brings to you. There is no end to what you can find that you need when you move from different times in your life. And I hope everyone takes advantage of that understanding.